All right, Celeste, right out of the gate, I have to ask you, what are your thoughts on free will versus fate or destiny? In other words, like how much of our life do you think is planned out before we get here?
Well, I feel like a bunch is. I would say probably around 40% for the average person. Like you're born into a certain family, and that gives you certain access to education, to a lifestyle and all of that stuff. But we have the free will to make decisions, and with every energy there can be a high road and a low road. Now some people's lives feel like they're like totally fated because they've just gonna get tossed around and whatnot, but others take agency and take action. So I think from free will can be 20 to 60% for people. I feel like that can be
Okay.
a range. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. I find it fascinating that you mentioned, picking your pathway or picking some of these key points before you're born. I did a video not too long ago about how we pick our parents before we're
Oh.
born. So do you have the same kind
Mm.
of feeling that before we ever come here, that there's this maybe even mapping out our astrology chart, like sitting there and plotting out these points?
There's this thought that, like what you're saying, that the soul picks the family. I feel like a lot of us th- mm, that we're assigned. I feel like we get an assignment about what we need to do next to learn. And that might be because I have Saturn on my sun. It's more of the assignment rather than we make the decision, oh, I really need to learn these hard lessons. So let's go this way or let's go that way. Yeah.
Gosh,
Mm.
Saturn on the sun. How have you liked having Saturn on the sun?
It's it's a tough thing. It's like being my own judge, so it's like I feel like a lot of my success in life has come from that Saturn on my sun, wanting to achieve, pushing myself, being my own judge and jury. And yeah, but it's also and like worrying about stability because I'm a Taurus, worrying about stability and all of this stuff and wanting creature comforts. So I'm thankful for it, but it's not easy. It's not easy.
Wow.
It's much easier having Jupiter on your sun. Just
I would
expecting things
imagine.
to go well, and they do, and that's not true for every Jupiter sun, but
Yeah, Jupiter on the sun feels like it would be so like bright and shiny. And I'm sure
Mhm,
there's pros and cons to every placement. Um,
mhm,
but yeah, I was sharing with you before we started recording that I have Neptune conjunct the sun.
mm,
So it's played in very nicely to being clairvoyant and
mhm.
channeling and all of that stuff. So I love astrology and I'm so glad we get to have this talk today.
Oh,
So I've
can
had
I ask you a
people,
question about
yeah,
Neptune on your sun?
yes.
Was it a journey to figure out how to separate your energy from others, or do you
Oh,
have all your tools, or do you still sometimes get overwhelmed by the energies of others around you?
such a great question, Celeste. So I still have to work on that because I find that if I'm around a certain person or a group of people, I tend to be a chameleon and I
Mhm,
can just adjust my energy to what's happening in the room. So, yeah, pros and cons, right?
mhm,
So, I've had to really try to figure out who I am. And
mm,
because my sun, moon, and rising are all mutable, I've had this journey in my life of trying to figure out what do I want? What choice am I going to make? Because I could literally live in a different place, every 6 months and be happy. And um, but I find that I'm like fluttering, like I'm like a little fairy that's just kind of drifting around. And
mhm.
so I don't have any earth in my chart. And so I have to be very aware of when I'm not staying put and why I'm not staying put.
Mm. Yeah, change comes so easy.
I love change. I love it. Because, we've been talking about the astrology of the rest of this year. We've talked even a little bit about 2025. And I'm like, yes, let's get the popcorn out. Let's watch this all go down. But I imagine someone like yourself that has a, Taurus placement, at least with your sun, that maybe the change isn't as fun and exciting as it would be to somebody with all these mutable placements.
Yeah, change has been very hard for me in my life until Uranus came to my sun. And I turned my life upside down. Yeah, I quit my corporate career to be a full-time astrologer. Mm.
Yeah, I understand. I understand how that is. I am going to include your bio down below so everybody can read it, but I want to mention a couple things from your bio that I find really interesting. So as you said, you had this professional career at working for top fortune companies. You left and you're like, I'm going to go be an astrologer. You and I connected at NORWAC, which is an astrology conference in Washington State. And I love your vibe. I love what you talk about. Your Instagram account is amazing. So again, I'll put all the links in the description of the video. You're a predictive astrologer, you're a life coach, you're a public speaker. One thing that caught my eye when I was reading your bio is you help people rectify their chart, because I've had so many people over the years that just talk to me about, oh, I want to see an astrologer, but I don't know what time I was born, and they feel like astrology is not available to them. And so the fact that you help them figure out what their birth chart is that they can work with, even if they don't have a birth time, that is invaluable. So I wanted to make sure I mentioned that, because I know a lot of people would love to work with you that don't have their birth time, but they still want to be able to enjoy astrology. So can you talk a little bit about how you do the rectification process?
Yeah, so the astrology chart is a clock, essentially. And so it speaks to timing of life events. So if you don't know your birth time, what you can do is pull together a list of important events in your life, and you want a mix of things throughout your life. And people can email me at celeste@astrologybyceleste.com, and I can send them a form that helps them know which ones are most important. And then what I do is called chart rectification, which is back calculate your ascendant and midheaven so that you have a chart that works for the timing of your life. And I have software that helps me do it, but then based on the events and how you describe the events, I can make sure things match. So it's so cool helping people learn about their birth charts, because your sun sign, most people, regardless of if you're born on a day, what time. But the moon moves pretty fast. So you may not know your moon sign, but typically people can figure it out. But the ascendant, knowing your ascendant is so important, because it tells you so much about how other people see you, and it sets the whole chart. So all of the houses. Yeah.
Yeah, once I
So
found out my rising sign, Gemini,
mhm,
completely changed the way that I looked at myself, my life, what I
mhm,
was interested in. And for somebody, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, that feels sometimes like she's just kind of flying all over the place, having that rising sign, the ascendant, really helped me to figure out more of who I am and what I came into this lifetime with. So I will never stop singing the praises of astrology. And I'm so thankful that I get to meet and talk to people like you who've studied astrology and really know it inside and out, because I want everyone to use it as a tool and a blueprint for their life. And once you have your chart and you understand it and you're working with an astrologer, you have so many more keys that you can open doors with than you could ever imagine. And you never stop learning about your
mhm.
chart. There's so many things to learn and know. And so for
I
somebody
still
to learn,
am like, that's how this aspect shows up, or this placement shows up. Yeah, it's just like it just helps you to peel the layers of yourself and have more self-acceptance with and understanding what's coming up for you. I love it so much. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. I could talk all about it all day. And we
Oh,
will. We're going to talk about astrology. One thing I do want to
I
mention.
have one more question for
Oh, go
you.
for it. Yeah.
I'm so nosy. Okay, where is your Mercury? What sign is it in?
In Sag.
Okay, and do Mercury retrogrades really impact you?
It depends. So
Oh,
sometimes it's like hell on wheels. Most of the
mm,
time they're okay. Most of the time they're
okay.
just like, oh, this is interesting, but I've
Mhm,
learned to really look for when a Mercury retrograde is and see what sign it's going to be in.
mhm,
And if I'm going to travel, if I have to travel, I take extra precautions. I leave extra
yeah.
early. So
Mhm.
I plan accordingly for travel. So I think that that's kind of minimized a lot of the stress around it. Um, but yeah, I've had crazy travel stuff happen during Mercury retrogrades, but usually I feel like they're okay. But I have my midheaven in Aquarius, and I feel like my life is just naturally filled with a little bit of twists and turns here and there. So I'm kind of
Ah,
used to it by now.
okay.
Yes. Speaking of placements in the chart, I have to mention this because you have a free gift that is called Setting Intentions with Moon Phases, and I have included that link below as well. So I've gotten it off of your website. I love your free gift. And I have
Oh, thank
found
you.
that working with the moon phases really helps you to navigate your life. And because the moon changes every few days, it helps you to kind of figure out what stage life is in and what you should be manifesting or releasing and things like that. So, why is the moon so important in astrology?
Yes. So the sun and the moon are the lights. They're the luminaries, and the sun rules our conscious mind, and the moon rules our subconscious mind. And every month they come together and whisper secrets to each other about what they want to bring forward to our life. And if we set intentions in sync with the moon cycles, this can really help us grow, like really help us manifest and grow. I use the moon cycles and we have 12 houses and I see the results with. It's so much better than like just saying in January, these are my goals for the year. Yeah.
I'm going to
Mhm.
have you repeat that again because I think that Zoom decided to crap out. So,
Okay.
moon moon cycles are important. You said they were luminaries, the sun and the moon, and that they
Mhm.
whisper to each other
Mhm.
and they bring a lot of insight into your life. And then what did you say?
Okay. So the sun is our conscious mind. It's like what we're aware of, but the moon is our subconscious, our what's beneath the surface. It speaks to like and a lot like what we want to bring forward. And so they come together, whisper secrets, and then a week later they're in square. And this is an activating time. When you look up and you see the half moon, this is a time to take action. And if you start noticing, like, you'll get like this little nudge where something will keep coming to your mind. And if it's around a first quarter or last quarter moon, it's like your psyche, your subconscious is telling you it wants you to take action on something. And there's always at the full moon things that are coming to your conscious attention if you're paying attention that are of the nature of the sign of the sun and the moon and the houses they're in your charts. So when you have these revelations, there are all these aha moments, but you can use them to set intentions in line with the energies and your natal chart in order to achieve the goals you want to do. So setting the intentions, having the actions. I recommend people have three things they want to do over the moon cycle, and then you put your energy into that, especially between the new and the full moon, and you will be so impressed about how much better you manifest in your life. And I use the cycles to retire from my corporate career by breaking down my breaking down all the things I wanted to do into like bite-sized pieces and not getting overwhelmed by the enormity of the task of of changing my career.
Yeah, that's a major shift in your life. And I know just based on my audience and my clients and students, a lot of them want to leave their job. They want to do some kind of healing work or spiritual work full time. And so the moon cycles can help with that, which is great.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
and there are these larger cycles that are a 27-month cycle that I post on Instagram and Facebook every week. They're called the moon phase families, and your chart will be activated every 9 months in the by the moon in the same place over 27 months, where there'll be a story potentially, especially if part of your chart, if like a planet or an angle's activated. They're really incredible to see them come to life. And so you can have this longer plan. Okay, this new moon was on my midheaven, which is my career point. So I'm going to start here. Where am I going to be 9 months from now? And build towards that with each of the moons. It's a great way to work with the energy.
I love that. What is your Instagram handle now that because you do a lot of videos and content on Instagram? What's the handle?
Astrology by Celeste. I'm at Astrology by Celeste everywhere on all the socials.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Make sure everybody goes and checks out Celeste on social media. So we have a few things we're going to cover today. We've got a few key dates, if everybody's got their pen and paper ready. We've got August 19th, September 17th. We've got October 2nd. We're also going to talk about Mercury retrograde August 4th, 5th. And then I'm going to ask you about the presidential election because it's a hot ticket right now. So we'll do that
Mhm.
at the end. But yeah, let's start with August 19th. So what the heck's going on?
So that's when Jupiter and Saturn square. And this is a big deal. Jupiter and Saturn are the social planets. And they have a lot to do with monetary things, monetary policy, and what the collective is kind of concerned with and wanting to bring in. And Jupiter entered the sign of Gemini on May 25th. And so Jupiter is a planet of expansion, abundance. It rules things like judges, higher education, doctors and hospitals are Jupiterian things. It's a benefic. It aids to life. It's like the cosmic Santa Claus. And in Gemini, it does not like to be in Gemini because it's a sign of its detriment. And Gemini is mutable air. So think about, how there's been like this, you may have noticed it, like an uptick in information, or things are getting louder, the energy is a little more scattered and chaotic with Jupiter and Gemini. Now it can be great for collaboration, and thinking through ideas. If you want to publish something or write something, this is great energy for that right now. Now, Saturn is in the sign of Pisces, where it is mutable water energy. And Saturn is a planet of structure, boundaries, limitations, karma. And it was the farthest planet the ancients could see. So they thought it was kind of the end. And Saturn constricts things. It's called a malefic. It takes away from life. It's like when you have a chronic illness, that's Saturnian. Um, and so Jupiter and Saturn are coming to square each other. Now, on December 21st of 2020, they met at 0 degrees of Aquarius. So if people know your charts, you can think about where that was because they set off on this new journey in your chart there. And the sign of Aquarius is about the future. It is about the collective, like think about your place in the collective and how you want to grow yourself and the limitations you'll face as you do that. And so now they're coming into this square where like it's a time to take action. So we're going to see, like, it's like fast and slow intersect with each other, and Saturn rules things like structures, the authority. um I just get like massive deception campaigns where, like, because Pisces can be about, there's a delusions, like as we're coming to the elections, like this massive flood of information that's intended to deceive, and something about it is coming to a head. Now it also can be storms and wind and rain and things like that. But I think there could be potentially a lot of travel delays, and it's right at the time of the Democratic National Convention. So it's going to be wild because Mars is traveling with Jupiter. So there's this hostile energy traveling along with Jupiter that's poking and prodding and agitating and fast moving and coming up against this wall, Saturn. It's like this something's coming together, like it's a little smash of the energy.
That sounds delightful, Celeste. So,
Well, it should just be frustrating. Like in most of our lives, it's just going to be, especially with people with a lot of mutable energy, it's just going to be a little bit of frustration where where you're trying to grow the Jupiter stuff, and it can be all mental, but you feel like you just keep getting blocked. Now, what you can do is just understand this is coming and recognize that there's going to be like delays, Saturn delays. There's going to be delays. There's going to be frustrations. You're going to like find yourself getting anxious. So, what are you going to do in order to manage this intensity of the energy? Meditation is a great thing. Getting up and going for a walk, not yelling at your kids because you're frustrated, understanding that, this is going on. I need to manage this. I know it's like this week is really intense. So what am I going to do to manage my emotions and energy around this week?
I love all of those tips. So I feel like it's August 19th, taking action while expecting delays and frustration. So it could feel like a push pull kind
Yes.
of dance. How long does that last?
I would say a week before and after is when it's the most intense.
Okay, I can do that.
Yeah. Well, that's the beautiful thing about transits. We know this hard energy is coming in, but it's a transit. It's transitory. So it's not, yeah,
We can
yeah.
do it.
It's not
We can.
forever.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of astrology. We know it's coming,
Eh,
so we can better prepare. We can put it on our calendar. We know that it's going to feel like a kind of a push pull muddy dance for a couple weeks. Yeah,
Yeah, and it may, I mean, some people may be like, what happened? Nothing happened. But there's going to be something. I think there's going to be deception uncovered about, ooh, maybe judges. Things about judges and mm, ooh, even religious figures.
oh,
Like there's
okay.
going to be shocking stories coming up, like shocking stories. Like Jupiter's also the truth, and shedding the truth on deception is going to be coming, I think.
Lots of headlines, I'm sure, about people that have.
Headlines, big headline. I
Yeah,
can't wait to see what is the big headline on the on the newspapers around the world. There'll be headlines of this nature in different ways.
interesting. What's on September 17th?
September 17th is the lunar eclipse in Pisces. So every year we have two eclipse seasons, and eclipses are intensified new moons and full moons. And new moons are when things are seated, and full moons are when all is revealed. Like the new moon, things are happening in the dark, and the full moon is wow, we see it all. And Pisces, again, we're talking about Pisces. Pisces is a water sign, and having a lunar eclipse there where the sun is going to be at 25 Virgo and the moon is going to be at 25 Pisces. So we're looking at a new story, like we're getting like a preview of 2025's energy when the north node moves into Pisces and the south node moves into Virgo. The nodes of the moon speak to the collective work we're doing. Um, and we've been doing the Aries Libra work over the last year. And so we're going to be, it's going to be really important that people have ways to keep themselves emotionally grounded despite chaos. I feel like is a big story because the moon will be next to Neptune, and Neptune can cause confusion and disillusionment and just like emotional swings of emotional openness. You can think about the moon was in Pisces after the debate between Joe Biden at the debate. And think about like all that emotional, that big emotional energy. The Democrats were freaking out like minutes after it started because it's like, yeah, it just like you can let yourself stories get crazy in your head with that. So Pisces rules beautiful energy around the higher knowledge and divine wisdom and all of that stuff. Like you, this is a time to call in your angels, ask them to help you with guiding you how you'd like to be guided. We'll be hearing stories about water, deception, disease. These are some of the Piscean themes that I think. Oil, we might be hearing something about oil. One of the things I've wondered is there going to be some kind of big change with oil at some point this year?
Oh,
Oil prices. Jupiter and Gemini square Saturn and Pisces could be something about constriction around oil or something about the change in oil prices. We'll see.
oh, Celeste. And let me guess, October 2nd is a solar eclipse.
That's the solar eclipse in Libra. Now, we've already had one last year, last October 14th. Now, this one's at 10 degrees of Libra. And there's something about each eclipse has a nature of it. So there's a nature of separation with this. So you can think about and like really think about the dream. What do you want to release from your life? Because it's a south node solar eclipse, and the south node is a drain. So this is a great time to give something up, like people pleasing. This is shadow Libra energy, or just going along to get along. There may be, like, depending on your chart, there may be something in your life that you could give up sugar. That would be a great thing to do with this. Yeah, just even temporarily give up sugar. Libra rules, Libra and Venus are associated with sugar. Mm,
Give up sugar. I'll write that down. I
yeah.
can't promise it, Celeste, but I'll write it down.
And it's about relationships. Libra is a sign of relationships. So that's the work we're doing. And you can think about on the world stage with the South Node in Libra, diplomacy. Libra is diplomacy, and how little diplomacy there's been over the last year. And people lacking, like there's an amplification with the North Node in Aries of conflict, courage, initiative, independence, and the South Node in Libra right now. It's less like, yeah. Oh, and yeah, less like the fake facade is being stripped away. And with the lunar eclipse in Pisces, seeing behind the veil just came to me with that. It's like the Great Oz, the curtain opens and you really see what's really there. That's where we're headed. Or yeah.
Yeah, with
Yeah,
it
it's really.
being, I was going to say, with it being in the South Node in Libra for the October 2nd solar eclipse, do you think that now, in July, August, September, if you're having relationship issues, should we be healing those and working on those now? Because when I hear South Node eclipse Libra, I hear relationships could come to an end, especially if
Mhm,
relationships are not the healthiest or they're not
mhm.
serving the people that are in the relationship. So, have you found that a South Node solar eclipse in Libra can be the end of some relationships?
Oh yeah, definitely. People are going to be splitting up. And look, you can see on the world stage, the relationships that are breaking down. I mean, even Canada and India had a diplomatic crisis earlier since the South Node went into Libra last July 22nd, I believe, of 2023. And we started seeing like the Barbie movie was right around that time that yeah, started seeing like the facade coming off on like just going on along to get along, or just staying in a relationship because it looks good. And then we had in the collective, there have been all sorts of relationships that broke down that seemed steady, like Hugh Jackman and his wife, um, Natalie Portman and her husband. There have been a bunch of them that we've seen, yeah, on the personal level as well as the level of, and lots of us know people in our lives whose relationships have broken down, some unexpectedly. Like with eclipses, you walk through a door and you turn around and there is a wall. We just had Aries Libra eclipses in the spring, and for part of it, Mercury was retrograde. So it's like people said something to their partner and it was like, that's it, we're done kind of energy. Yeah, so but relationships are being shedded that are not in your highest good, I feel like. And like they're the problems. So either work on them and get over them, or there could be a release from the relationship.
Is there any truth to a solar eclipse feeling more intense than a lunar eclipse, just generally speaking?
Well, a solar eclipse I feel like it's more the south node solar eclipse feels more jarring than the north node solar eclipse. Yeah. It's because and they're like more of the action taking parts. The lunar eclipse is when you see the things come from emotional things, but the solar eclipse has more of a conscious energy to it, I feel like. But the south node is the drain and the north node is the amplifier. So like when something's the rug being ripped out from under you can happen with either, but like it tends to be harder. It tends to be initiated by someone outside of yourself with the solar eclipse and lunar eclipse. Excuse me. The south node solar eclipse or lunar eclipse activating your chart.
So when we have a south node solar eclipse, that's when it could feel like the rug is kind of pulled out from underneath you from someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah. The south node has like a descendant quality to it, like the other person is initiating the action. And you can think like the last October with a south node solar eclipse. And for Israel, it was at 21 degrees of Libra, and Israel's ascendant is at 23 degrees of Libra. And the terrorist attack was like the rug being pulled out from under, and then actions were initiated, and it just all went from there. So think about all the people in that region whose lives were just turned completely upside down by actions. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Okay, so the September 17th lunar eclipse in Pisces. So I imagine anyone with mutable signs or big placements in your chart with planets in mutable, watch for that.
Yeah, really notice how you're feeling. This is
Okay.
a great time to journal. Yeah, mutable place especially. Really just like try to, as much as you can, really pay attention and don't just push it down, push it down, push it down. Like people with addictive tendencies, this could be a time where they're really reaching for whatever it is, whether it's the bottle or the slot machine or what have you. Mm.
And the mutable would be Gemini, Pisces, Sag, Virgo.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Virgo is the only one I don't have.
Oh, okay. So your T-square releases in Virgo. So a way that you can ground and like, do you like writing lists and planning, getting organized? Is that how you like when things start getting a little chaotic with all the mutable, like
Oh yeah,
getting organized can really help you.
for sure.
And
I
do you,
bust out my markers and my paper and I do like colorful lists and I do lists. I do like 3 lists for the same list. Just to, but it's good because otherwise my mutable would just fly off the handles. So That Virgo like really brings me down and centered. So I love my list. So yeah,
Yeah.
everybody out there, I
Do you
think we should
have
all be
Virgo
making
people
lists.
in your life? Do you attract Virgos into your life?
No, I have
Mm.
my nephew is a Virgo, and I think that's one of the only Virgos in my life. And I don't attract
Ah,
any Cancers either. And I don't have anything in Cancer either.
mm.
Yeah, little fun fact. I don't know.
Well, it's so funny that we like got on like a house on fire. I'm a South Node in Virgo and a Cancer rising.
So see, it's a
So
good
you attracted
compliment.
one into your life. Yeah.
Yeah, yay. Yeah, I love it. I think it's a good compliment, a good balance to it. So I'm thrilled. Yeah, I was like, I need more Cancers in my life. I had this like talk with myself because I realized I didn't really have any. So
Mm.
it's fun to know that you have Cancer rising because I manifested you in.
See, that's how it works.
It does. It totally does. We want to back up for a minute. So Mercury retrograde, depending on where you live, it's August 4th or 5th, is the upcoming one, correct?
Yes, it's yeah, depending. And it's on the 5th on the East Coast till the 28th. And Mercury's going to start, it's going to retrograde at 4 degrees of Virgo and go back through your chart back to 21 degrees of Leo. So that area of your chart is going to get 3 passes. So things can start coming up around July 17th that like you may make a plan and then during the retrograde the plan changes. So just be aware that it's like we're already kind of in the energy of it as of July 17th, but the exact dates are August 4th through August 28th, where you can have twists and turns. I think this one, it's like there's going to be revealing about health issues, uh, like some kind of news of a Virgo nature, and Virgo rules things like data systems. This could be I'm wondering, like I've been waiting for another like a cyber attack that's gonna be a big deal. Like there was a big one earlier this year in Pisces season around the healthcare. Do you know what I'm talking about? The prescriptions.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. So I just worry about because we're so data driven and information driven. And next year, the South Node in Virgo, oh my God, I just thought about that. It's gonna be every time you turn around, something's going on. Like with AT&T, they've been having a lot of problems with, and Instagram has had a couple of hiccups where things went wackadoo.
It makes you wonder with South Node, Virgo and data and cyber attacks and all that. I'm very curious to see what happens with people's online presence as that happens, because I wonder if, or does it get to a point where there's so many data leaks and everybody's information's on the dark web, right? Are
Mhm.
people going to feel less drawn to things like social media or things like that? Are they going to just feel like, I've kind of had enough of all of this crap that's going on with my data? I'm just going to get off of everything and go back to my local community and my regular cell phone and not be as connected online. So I feel like there might be a shift with the internet and social media and social
Mm.
networks coming, but that's just
That's
a
a great prediction for the North Node in Pisces, like the South Node in Virgo, going to like going to get rid of the smartphone and going back to like the dumb phone so that yeah, for your mental health. Like because Virgo and Pisces is the axis of physical health and mental health. I feel like Virgo's the physical because it's an earth sign, and Pisces is the mental because it's a water sign.
oh, fascinating. Yeah, because I've been seeing also more in the energy people not wanting to live in populated areas anymore. So I could see that more people will be leaving the bigger cities. And so to know that
Mm.
the axis is Virgo Pisces, that even lends, I think, to that, because if maybe people are just feeling energetically fried and
Mm.
they don't maybe know about energy work, or they don't know how to ground or things like that, their instinct might be, this has been way too much for me. I'm just going to go live someplace else. And maybe they live farther out from the hustle and bustle of cities.
Somewhere where they can be with the land, grow their own food.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hope there's not some event that leads us to this, but yeah, I could see that. But it's so interesting with COVID, a lot of people left cities and then went back. So you're seeing them leaving again. That's really interesting.
Yeah, there's going to be some shift to the way people are living.
Mhm.
And it could be tied to different things that will be happening with money and the financial systems, and what are we using for currency. And I remember being shown a few years back that there would be more bartering for things and services. And that hasn't come to fruition yet. But they kept
Mhm.
showing me like money's not going to be the same. And that you may find that you are bartering with people more than you ever have in your life. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's something that goes a little wacky with either money, access to money.
Mm.
But I think there's going to be so many big things that happen
Yeah.
that it can become difficult to say, okay, this is what's coming next, and then it's going to be this, and then it's going to be this, because at least for me, when I channel, and I know you do predictive work, it's like
Mhm.
when you're trying to like sort it all out in the energy,
Mhm.
getting a timing or like when something's going to happen when you're just channeling, that can be difficult, which is why
Mm.
if you're looking at something in a predictive nature and then you can point to a transit in an
Mhm.
astrology chart and go, this feels like this could be matching up. Those two together, I feel like, give you the best shot at figuring out a
Mhm.
timing.
Mm.
Because if you're just channeling and you see the imagery and the symbols and you're hearing words and phrases, it's really interesting to see what they're showing, people
Yeah.
that are channeling. But to get a timeline, I think astrology is where it's at for timing.
Yeah, and you're making me think about the Uranus retrograde on September 1st, because it happens on the same day Pluto goes back into, because Pluto's retrograde right now, it's in Aquarius, but it goes back um into into Capricorn, a sign of governments and big business, and Uranus is in Taurus, a sign of banking, money, and finance. It's going retrograde on Algol, this really feared fixed star that's a star of catastrophe. Like there could be some kind of huge upset in the internet. Uranus rules the internet or the banking. The Houthis in Yemen have been threatening to cut this underwater cable that takes all the data from Europe to the Middle East and Africa and all the banking data. So like something like that could cause a disruption where there's a timeline where people are like unable to access something, and then like you said, doing the bartering, and that would be in line with the Pisces eclipse. Like, oh my god, what do we do? We're going crazy, because eclipses come in up to 6 weeks before. You can start seeing things related to the eclipse, of the nature of the eclipse chart.
It all
Yeah, wait,
sounds
what a
really, really delightful, Celeste.
It's like, may you be born in interesting times. There's the energy right now is just chaotic. It just is. I wish it was all puppies and rainbows and things were calm and peaceful, but right now that's just not the energy right now. But it's temporary, but it's destabilizing. This whole Pluto in Aquarius, which is changing the collective, It's like exposing all of the things that are problems in the way we're living right now. And it's difficult. Yeah, I put health medical announcements, bad weather, peace demonstrations. Oh, I wrote this last year, peace demonstrations. During the election disinformation.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah,
Fighting, yeah. For
the
the lunar
lunar,
eclipse, I wrote stuff about
yeah,
that.
the lunar eclipse in Pisces, September 17th, and as you said, we'll start feeling it about 6 weeks before. Going back to your point about really feeling things and numbing, because
Mhm.
I keep feeling in the energy this like bigger and bigger divide or separation energetically, where those that are not numbing and those that are, it just feels like such a gap between the energies where it's like
Mm.
more people are going into the numbing, or going deeper into the numbing. So
Mhm.
anybody that, is either doing it themselves or has a friend or a family member that is into drugs, alcohol, or whatever addiction they have, just watch as we get closer to the September
Mhm.
7th lunar eclipse, because you may sense or see that the addictions or the numbing could potentially get worse.
Mhm. Yeah, it could get out of control with the lunar eclipse, and B, the North Node goes into Pisces next year, next January for 18 months, and it's an amplifier. So there's this amplification of Piscean energy, and part of it is escapism. Now, there also, and this has been going on for years as people are getting more and more interested in psychedelics and things like that. That's another way people are using substances to have different experiences, like seeing God or achieving divinity kind of stuff. We're going to be seeing more and more people doing stuff for that purpose. But there's also just the devolving, and Pisces rules homelessness. And in the United States, it's just getting worse and worse and worse. Homelessness, drug addiction, mental illness, those three are all Piscean. And then we're going to be seeing those amplified. And we're going to get a glimpse around the lunar eclipse.
Hmm.
So it's a
Well,
great time to consider stopping drinking or stopping the drugs. With Saturn limits things in Pisces. A lot of people are, and a lot of younger people are like, they like to smoke pot or whatever, but they don't drink. And like the wine companies are are upset about it. I was reading some article because people are giving up alcohol too. Like you
yeah, so
said, the divide's coming bigger.
yeah, that separation that I'm sensing in the energy. I've even seen headlines about younger folks being celibate, and like celibacy is like the new thing. So it's interesting, right? Because if they're not really drinking, which a lot of generations have been drinking probably more alcohol
Mhm.
than they are now,
Mhm.
and they're celibate, I'm like, I wonder what in the astrology is kind of pointing to either the restriction or saying no to something. Maybe that's Saturn.
Saturn could say no, but Uranus changing, upheaval about Taurus, physical pleasure. Mm, yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
finding pleasure in different ways. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So it's a good
Yeah.
question for us to sit with as we're
Yeah.
journaling or
Saturn and Pisces
meditating.
too. Mhm.
Yeah, it's like what brings us pleasure, because it might not be the traditional definition anymore.
Mhm.
Food for thought. Food for thought.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we go, we want to talk about the presidential election. I mean, we talked about so many of these key dates coming up between now and then. So, Celeste, if you have your crystal ball available, um, what are you sensing?
Well, it's going to be wild no matter what. There is like really intense energy right before the election where Pluto at the 29th degree of Capricorn, And Pluto like breaks things down to the stud in all in order to be rebuilt. And the United States is going through its Pluto return, this cycle where like all the rot is exposed, and the sun is opposite it in Cancer, and the United States is a Cancer sun. So there's this really intense, excuse me, Mars is opposite it. So we've got this Mars Pluto opposition, Mars in its fall in Cancer, and Mars is the planet of fighting and conflict, and Pluto's a higher octave of Mars, and it's like, oh, this intense power struggle energy right before the election. And I don't know, like I was saying, there could be some big event that comes out of nowhere. Like we were talking about, will Joe Biden be the nominee, or will he step down? And it's looking more and more and more like he's being pushed out. Like I had a thought, well, maybe he will and he'll just win or something, or maybe something will happen that we're not expecting, like a breakdown of a breakdown of some kind of data systems that delays, or I mean, I think something really unexpected could happen around the election time, or maybe there's just all this buildup, and then it's like Mars goes into Leo and we vote, and it's like, it's like, what was all that talk about? So I am having a really hard time predicting exactly what is going to happen, because it's so it seems so chaotic.
Yeah, it is very chaotic. Um, yeah, I've talked about it last week in my video that I did with Scott Herian. We talked about the presidential election and the madness that's leading up to it, and feels like there's so much that's going to be happening over these next, 5 months, that it's like the setup for 2025. And we'll definitely have you back on soon. And as we get closer and closer to 2025, I think we should start talking about it sooner rather than later. I know we have a
Yeah,
lot to get through in these next few months, and the election is going to be crazy. But there's so much that's going to happen in 2025 that the sooner we start kind of preparing ourselves and having really good self-care practices, I think the
mhm.
easier it will be to navigate 2025. Do you agree that it's like the next few months is kind of the setup for what's going to be
Yes.
coming?
Yeah, because next year, a bunch of outer planets are changing signs, and they're going from yin signs, where the energy is more subtle and internal, to yang signs, where it's being pushed out. So, and things are going to start moving really. You think things are moving fast now? Wait till Uranus goes into Gemini and things start like twisting and turning really fast. So, yeah, everything we do that to kind of set ourselves up now is really, really important. And I think there's a lot of, yeah, unexpected, like you said, unexpected things. But despite the chaos around us, like you said, self-care practices are so, so important. But I can see things going either way with the astrology. Like I could see Trump winning, and then like the starting us on the path to theocracy. I could see, because that's what, that's like this Project 25 is getting a lot of press now, and what they want to set up and like really fundamentally change the government in ways that are so different. But I can also see, the Democrats staying in power, but it's still a lot of like chaos and upheaval, and even like the president being like passing away in office or something like that. Oh my God. It's really wild. But August, I feel like that Jupiter Saturn square will have more clarity. Saturn and Pisces. Saturn brings clarity to where we're headed. Jupiter, the United States, is a Sag rising, and so Jupiter rules our natal chart. We're getting some clarity about where we're heading mid-August, although not, we won't know the whole story.
Well, at least we can know that mid-August is right around the corner, and we'll hopefully
Mhm.
have some insight.
Yes, yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
next week will be telling too. Like the full moon. What's interesting, we used to have two full moons in Capricorn this year, and the last one is at 29 degrees. So whenever like it's going to be exposing like the frailty of the big businesses, governments. Like we're really seeing a lot about Boeing in the news. That's like the company that's representing the like the rot of corporate greed. And then we're seeing like our government gets nothing. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that. Like the infrastructure bill, the CHIPS Act, the Biden administration actually got a lot done, but he is really old and frail. And it was like Saturn was retrograde, like moving, just about to go retrograde at the debate. And we really saw in like stark picture, it brought to the conscious attention of us the reality of um of his of his decline. Mm.
Yeah, the interesting about Boeing, because I live in Washington State, Western Washington, and Boeing is, you know, based out of here. And I remember, let's call it 18 months ago to 2 years ago, I was getting a lot of downloads about planes not being safe. And I felt like, oh, I don't want to be on an airplane. Like, you know, I'm getting anxiety and I'd really have to like talk myself down off the ledge before I would get on an airplane. And then when all the things started happening and all these issues with the planes and what was or wasn't happening with the safety checks and all that, it's been really kind of strange seeing it now, knowing planes aren't that safe, the prediction, right? And then seeing it kind of play out now. But my hope is that through all of this, there will be new safety measures, new regulations that planes will be safer than they've ever been before. So I'm hoping that this was just a pocket of time where things went off the rails and they'll be able to make flying safer.
Well, I'm also worried about climate change, all these unexpected turbulence, like and like Jupiter and Gemini and air sign, Pluto and Aquarius and air sign, and like yeah, and once Uranus goes into Gemini, ah, I'm worried about the unpredictable, like the warming of the air. Like, are they gonna? How can they figure out how to change things? Like, I think I'd written something. Are the planes gonna? I go on Threads and just kind of streamline some things that are coming to me. That's the Instagram, Twitter for anyone who doesn't know. And I wrote a while ago, is there something about the air is getting warmer and it's changing in ways that faster turbulence we can't see? And what are they going to do? Are they going to make planes go faster, slower? What do they do? There was just another one where things went haywire and people were thrown up into the head upper head compartment. It was terrifying. And I
That
have
is,
to fly to England for a conference.
yeah,
I'm so scared.
that's not calming my anxiety at all. At all. Planes
Yeah,
used to
take the
not bother
bus. That's what I said. Take the bus. Oh my God.
or a
I mean,
train, maybe a train,
yeah.
maybe a train. But yeah, um, planes to me, they used to not bother me at all. And now it's like, nope, I have to sit on the aisle. I don't want to look out the window. I don't want to see what's out there. I'm just going to keep my head down and get where I need to go. But it used to be so enjoyable. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of scary.
Well, Uranus and Gemini is next. I think it's next May when it goes in for 7 years. And there's going to be, and Gemini rules like short distance travel. And I wonder if we're going to be seeing more and more emphasis putting into like high speed trains, people getting in their cars, not wanting to get on planes, like traveling in your local state or area because of what's going on with the turbulence and the planes falling to pieces and all of this. So yeah, it's concerning. I mean, I don't think it's gotten as bad. Like it's not terrible yet, but it's scary and unnerving. But
Huh. So
we
question
have
about,
the technology maybe to fix it. I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah, I guess we'll see.
Yeah, maybe they'll come up with a fix before, you know, fix quickly. AI, but to chat GPT, how do we fix these planes? It tells the engineers and they fix it all up.
Yeah, I mean, I think AI will progress us in so many ways. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see that unfold. I have a question about Uranus going to Gemini because I can hear people watching this video right now being like, "Oh my God, I'm a Gemini," or they know they have Mercury or Venus or Mars or something in Gemini, and you hear the planet of the unexpected or upheaval or
Uh-huh.
things like that coming into where maybe they have placements in Gemini. Do I even ask, like, what are they in for? Is it going to basically
Oh,
take whatever the planet is that they have in Gemini, and whatever that planet is, they can kind of see a theme, and that
yeah,
could be
there's
the
going to be
theme?
some change. Now, Uranus in Taurus has been a lot harder for Tauruses than it's going to be for Geminis because Gemini is mutable air and Uranus it naturally rules Aquarius, an air sign. Uranus is going to be very comfortable in Gemini, making change and a sign that likes change. So I like Uranus. Like I like all of the outer planets, all give us something. Uranus is the great awakener, and it can awaken you to things that you didn't even think were possible. It's future forward. I really feel like, in a lot of ways, it can be very benefic. Now, it can be malefic or benefic. But Uranus used well, it depends on your chart, can open your eyes to exciting things that, ooh, you never thought were even possible. Like for me, it was like, I do not have to work at this corporate job for the rest of my life. I could go on my fool's journey. I feel like, well, Uranus is the astrology correspondence for the Fool card in the tarot. So yeah, put your thing on your pack and decide to travel lighter. Maybe like people, I'm a Gemini, I'm going to live on the land, like you were saying, like people moving out of the cities. Yeah, yeah, I think it can be exciting. I don't think it's something like I was so scared about Uranus coming to my son, because my son's Saturn, and actually, it's liberation and freedom. So think about the nature of the planet. What do you want to liberate and free yourself from? That yeah. And being aware of like what happens, the problems come when you try to hold on too tight to something that needs to leave your life and you're like, "Ugh," and then there's a sudden snap and it breaks. But if you're working with it intentionally, yeah, it can be a whole different story. So I think like you could be a little excited about it.
And if somebody looks at their birth chart and they don't have any planets in Gemini, then maybe they could look at what house
What
it.
house it's in.
Okay.
Hmm.
So they can look up what theme or what area of their life that Uranus would be going through.
Yeah, and think about the topics that house rules. What changes would you like in this area? Now, some of them may be unexpected, but if you're paying attention and working with it intentionally, it can bring positive changes into the area of life. So, yeah.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, it could be a lot of fun. There's going to be, yeah, it's going to be wild. Technological advancements could be the flying cars. Mm, Uranus rules aviation. And Gemini, you can think about the roads and stuff. Mm. The
Huh.
Jetsons. It's like that Jetsons feels very Uranus and Gemini. Yeah. Well, that's Pluto and Aquarius too. So they're going to be in a trine. So there's going to be fast moving technological changes that, wow. And scientific advancements. Mm. Artificial limbs. Like Gemini rules the hands and the wrists and the shoulders like advancements in shoulder surgeries. I mean, like there's all going to be all kinds of scientific advancements with Uranus and Gemini. Mm.
Yeah, what I'm hearing also to make mention of is the Pisces Virgo axis that we're going to have, that there will be breakthroughs in a lot of diseases and cures.
Mhm.
Ooh, and I have
Mhm.
chills from head to toe, which is confirmation. So I think with all these things that we've been talking about today, that are going to be fascinating and massive and all these things, I think that one of the like great things that will come out of this will be cures that we haven't had before, that so many
Mhm.
people have been hoping for.
Well, that neural link thing, like fixing nerves, I can totally see that. The blind can see, the lame can walk, all of this kind of stuff, I think could be coming sooner rather than later. Yeah. Like
which is
Neptune is going into Aries. That could be a medication that cures blindness. Neptune rules like drugs, and Aries is the eyes.
my hair is
Hmm.
literally standing up as you say that.
Hmm.
Um, there's so much. I mean, we even said before we started, I think it was before we started recording, that, Pluto and Aquarius, we know it's going to go back into Capricorn, but then, Pluto and Aquarius about 20 years. And I said,
Hmm.
oh, um, our world's going to be so much different in 20 years. And he said, it's going to be so much different in 5 years.
Mm. Hmm.
So
Yeah,
our
the
worlds are
pace of
changing.
change.
Yeah,
Yeah,
fast and furious for sure.
yeah.
But what a time to be alive, and let's celebrate it. And, you know, we're going to help you. Celeste and I are going to help you, and our friends in the spiritual community, we're here to help. And yeah, definitely I recommend Celeste. I recommend, and it's astrologybyceleste.com, correct?
Yes.
Yes. And so if you go on there, and then on all socials, Astrology by Celeste. And again, if you don't have your birth time, definitely, hit up Celeste, because I know there's been so many people that have reached out to me and they're like, I'm so disappointed I don't have my birth time. And I didn't
Mm.
really know an astrologer that said, I rectify charts, because that is a special gift.
It's a
And
lot of work.
it's a lot of
That's why
work.
most
So
people don't want to do it. It's a
they
lot of
don't want to
work,
do
but
it. They don't want to do it. But the fact that you're like, I do it and I can help,
yeah.
that speaks volumes about how much care you have in this art of astrology. So I hope that everybody goes and checks out your website and your socials and links up with you. And um, yeah, so I guess in parting and closing, are there any words of wisdom that you have for all of us as we head into this wild time?
I mean, I just feel like as much as you can, stay present with the daily life and try to catch yourself, especially with the Pisces energy coming in, catch yourself from letting your fears just spiral out of control. Having gratitude for what you have every day and focusing on yeah, building your nest egg and keeping yourself calm through the chaos of life, I think is the best thing we can do. Because and like get active. Like if you're really concerned about the election, well, are you going to be a poll worker? Are you going to like like take action to help other people, or like in what really your what you care about? Because that's a way you can feel like you have some agency with what's going on around us. Every person can do something to make the world a better place.
Absolutely. Yeah. Reach out to your local government and see if they have committees
Mhm.
that you can sit on. I
Mhm.
had a friend and client reach out today and said, I started my own committee in my town, and we're going to make my town better, and we're going to work together to do it. So she didn't have any official appointment. She just said, I'm going to do this, and we're going to get
Uh-huh.
together and make the town better. So you don't have to wait for an invitation. You can go and create something and get a couple of friends and see
Mhm.
what you could do together.
Exactly. I love that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, Celeste, thank you so much for being a part of my YouTube channel and having this chat with me, and really giving us a clear vision of what the energy can present as, and giving us these key dates so that we can ride with the waves instead of fighting it.
Mhm. Well, thank you so much, Delisa, for having me. This was such a pleasure to talk with you.
Same. We'll do it again.
I'd love to. Yeah, and I want you to come on my channel too if you want.
Done and done. Done and done. Yes. All right, perfect. Well, thanks so much. And for everybody watching, thank you. And if you made it this far in the video, drop us a comment and let us know, do you have a question on your mind for 2024, 2025, or is there a prediction that you have yourself? We'd love to hear your thoughts. So, all right, well, we will see everybody on the next video. Thanks again, Celeste, and bye, everybody.